Now, once we have segmented the market, what happens now? Once the market has been segmented, we have a lot of segments available to us. It is up to the company to decide. Like, for example, if you can see, uh, how do you select a target market is basically determining how many segments to enter. So, there are three different strategies that we could think of. One is called as a undifferentiated marketing. What do we mean by undifferentiated marketing? I'm sure all of you must have studied this in your first year marketing management uh, course, but still, I'll just brush up the concepts. So, undifferentiated marketing, what do we mean by undifferentiated marketing? It means offering one product or service to the entire market, even though there might be 5 or 6 or 7 segments, but you offer just one single product to the entire market. You say, no, fine. I mean, I don't see any major difference in the different segments. So, the same product for everyone, right? Similarly, you could have differentiated market. Differentiated marketing means that for different segments that you have, once you have segmented the market, for different segments, you will have different offerings. So, for example, Toyota. Toyota has identified different segments in the automobile sector on the basis of lifestyle, on the basis of psychographics, on the basis of age, on the basis of income, on the basis of many other variables. So, they have identified, like for example, even on the basis of demographics, on the basis of country. Like for example, all the Toyota Camrys which are exported to the US, they are all made in Australia, by the way, and they are exported to the US. Their size, because Americans are bigger and taller, the size of a Toyota Camry meant for Australia, manufactured in Australia, but meant for America, to be sold in America, is slightly bigger or wider. Let me put it this way. But the Camrys which are sold in the Middle East or elsewhere, they are not bigger, because this is a specific segmentation strategy based on, you know, the country or the demographics has been employed. Similarly, Toyota has different brands for different markets. For the super premium, they have a different brand. I shouldn't say super premium. For the premium market, they have a brand called as Lexus. So, for super premium or super rich, or let me put it this way, exact marketing term, the luxury, the uber luxury brand, Toyota does not have, Toyota is not a player in that particular segment. That segment is dominated by very few companies. They be traditional, like for example, you have Bentley and you have brands like Rolls Royce, and then you have Maybach, which is a Mercedes brand. So, Mercedes operates in that particular segment. If you look at Mercedes has segmented the market in different ways. BMW also segmented the market in different ways, and so have many automobile brands. So, Toyota has got a Prado, it has got a Land Cruiser Prado, it has got a Land Cruiser, it has got a RAV4, Toyota has got a Corolla, Toyota used to have Tercel. In India, obviously, they had Liva and Etios and many other brands. Toyota had very, very popular brands like Camry, and then they had brands like Crown. Toyota has got a range of brands meant for different markets, for people having different income or buying capacity, and psychographics and behavioral, I should say, like example, people who love adventure and outdoor, they prefer Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser is a very, very popular brand if you go to the Middle Eastern countries. In America, they are big. They have variant. They have alternate cars, like for example, GM and Suburban and Chrysler and all that. But in the Middle East, Toyota rolls the roost, especially the Land Cruiser. So if somebody wants a really tough and outdoorsy car, it is the Land Cruiser. And Toyota also has got many other variants targeted towards different segments. But the most popular of Toyota brands are these that I have just mentioned. So, what exactly do we mean by differentiated marketing? That you make the segments. Once you have segmented the market, you have products accordingly. So, for example, banks depending on the income, or I should say the count, they segment the market. So, you have gold standard, and you have platinum, and you have the silver account, and similarly you have the credit cards. Credit cards are also segmented accordingly depending on the the user's capability to repay the loans and all that. So, that is how it is, right. So, differentiated marketing is that you have different segments, you have segmented the market, and then you decide which of these segments do I need to target. And then we have something called as the concentrated marketing. Concentrated marketing means that you, even though you may have segmented the entire market and the market could have yielded 4 or 5 segments, but you choose only one of these segments. So, you concentrate on one of these segments, not on the rest. You leave the rest. Maybe you don't have the expertise. Like, for example, Toyota, if you were to look at this, Toyota has a differentiated marketing strategy. Rolls-Royce has got a concentrated marketing strategy. That is, they make only premium cars for the super rich. By the way, many of you would not know. If you were to look at Rolls-Royce, has always been known for reliability and quality. And Rolls-Royce is very trustworthy brand. And most of the aircraft engines are also manufactured by Rolls-Royce, not only automobiles. So, the automobiles are obviously uber luxury, super luxury, but they manufacture aircraft engines. Now, these two diverse businesses, but there is a synergy between the technology, quality, reliability, trust, precision. So, aircraft engines need precision. They need very superior quality. So is Rolls-Royce. When it comes to automobile, they are highly precise machines. So, how do we actually decide, if we talk of the STP part, especially how do we decide which of these segments do we really want to target? So, you have to, there is a structured process. So, what you need to do is you have to look at the sales potential of each of these segments. So, let us say you have decided the market, you have segmented the market and you have decided that the market has basically 6 segments. So, how do you go about it? So, what you do is you basically decide on the sales potential, that in this particular segment how many units, or what would be my volume sales, or what would be the sales in terms of rupees or in terms of dollar terms or rupee terms. That is what you need to decide. Then you have to look at whether each what is the structure of that particular segment. Some segments, they may have sales potential, but they may have a lot of competition, and the market condition could be such that it is difficult for people to enter that particular segment. Sometimes it is very easy to enter the segment, but it is very difficult to move out of the segment because you have invested a lot of money in, and there is a lot of fixed cost involved. So, you stay back, even though you are not profitable, you stay back and you fight it out. So, those are the dilemmas that you need to resolve. You have to look at your rivals. So, small companies do not venture into segments which are big. So, for example, there is, in the last so many years, I will give you another interesting example. In the last 20-30 years, in America you had JetBlue and you had Ryanair and all that. But in the last few years, or in Europe also, because Europe is comprised of small countries. But if you talk of country like India and the Middle East, air travel at one point of time was, or even worldwide, I am talking of the 70s and the 80s, even the early 90s, air travel was considered to be a very luxurious and premium thing, and you were really pampered. So, I remember as a small child, I had the opportunity to fly with my parents to many destinations in Middle East and some African countries, long distance flights. We were simply pampered. We would get all kinds of, as we were small kids, we would get all kinds of gifts, and we would get absolutely fantastic food, and I mean, which looked like, a 3-course, 4-course meal with n number of desserts and chocolates and ice creams, and in between also we were pampered with toys and ice creams, hampers and all that. So, air travel continued that way for a long period of time. Then some clever person decided that, or somebody who could not buy those big long haul flights and big aircraft, they decided that we want to go into this particular business. So, how do we go about it? We also be part of the aviation industry. So, how do we go about it? So, they decided that let us segment the market. So, this market is premium. What do? We target flyers who have to fly for not more than 3 hours. So, ultimately in India, everywhere you can reach any destination that you want to fly to, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, it is not going to take more than 3.5 hours. and majority of the flights, are not like that they fly from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. It could be just 1 or 2 flights, but majority of the flights are probably 1.5, 2 hours, 2.5 hours maximum. Many people who are flying from India to nearby countries, to Pakistan, to Sri Lanka, to Bangladesh, to Thailand, to Dubai, Saudi Arabia, sometimes it takes a little bit more time if you are going to Jeddah and all that, 3 hours, 4 hours. But most of the expatriates living in Bahrain, Qatar, it hardly takes, I think it's not more than 3.5 hours in most of the cases. So ultimately, these companies, these marketers, they realize that let's have a no-frill airline or low-cost carriers. Let's come up with this. Let's let's not buy aircrafts like regular airline companies, because that's a very, very costly exercise. What we can do is we can buy smaller aircrafts. Many companies tend to upgrade, so we can buy smaller airworthy aircrafts and we can lease them, or probably we can lease them, and let's start these low frill airlines. Low frill airlines means that they are low cost. So if you have to fly from Delhi to Mumbai, so probably maximum of 2 hours. So as long as I get a place to sit, I am not too much bothered whether the seats are very comfortable or they're super comfortable. There is a lot of leg space. I am getting tea, coffee, I am getting breakfast, I am getting dinner, I am getting lunch. That's not a consideration for me. My main consideration is price. So rather than spend an additional 15,000 on leg space and dinner, lunch, and being pampered, I would prefer to save those 15,000 rupees, and I would rather fly for 6, 7, 8, 9,000 rupees from Delhi to Mumbai. So low cost airlines became very, very popular, because in country like India and with places in Middle East and all these, there are everywhere in the world you will find that there are consumers who are price conscious, because they are not able to afford the premium segment. So what they do is, for them this was a big boon, and that is the reason why what has happened in the last so many years, there has been a boom of low frill airlines. So when you enter the aircraft, they may probably give you some water if you ask them, and they also serve it they don't give you water bottle, rather they give you a cup and they give you water from a jug. So that also cuts down on cost. Water, I said, is something which cannot be denied, but everything else is payable. Whether it's tea, coffee, snacks, they're all payable. In India, there is a proliferation of such airlines. Air India Express is a classic example. Now we were talking of, I took this example. Why? Because at one point of time, big companies did not move into these niche markets. What is a niche market? How do we define that? Niche market is a small market which is lucrative for a small player, but it is not lucrative for a big player. Okay? Because the sales are very, very small, just a drop in the ocean for the big company. But what has happened in the last few years, when I say few years, 10, 15 years, the niche market, low cost airline market or no frills market has expanded so much that they are now bigger than the regular premium market. So what happened? Instead of those small players being there, even the bigger companies have jumped into the bandwagon. So Air India has got Air India Express. A lot of other companies also have that. Now in Europe, this is a very popular phenomenon, because Europe, the distances are very short. So from Spain to Portugal, or from France to let's say Prague, or from Prague to Zurich. So from Zurich to Paris, the distances are very, very small. From Paris to London, distances are maximum 1.5 hours flight. So in Middle East is dominated by low cost airlines. So the local travel is basically low cost. The big airlines like KLM and Alitalia and all those, they've been struggling. Some have closed shop. Very few airlines, these airlines are only successful. Airlines like Air India or Lufthansa or KLM, such airlines are successful over long distance. So if I have to go to America, if I have to go to UK, if I have to go to Germany, if I have to travel 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 hours, oh, I want everything. I want luxury, I want comfort, I want leg space, I want food, I want dinner, and I am willing to pay everything for that. So I am willing to pay for everything. But when it comes to one and a half hours flight, I wouldn't even mind, flying standing sometimes if the prices are pretty low. That's not a possibility when it's air travel, but there are consumers they would say, okay, for 1000 rupees, I don't mind. If the fare is 7000 sitting and 1000 standing, I'll take 1000. If that was a technical possibility, they would do that, right? And then once we have done this, we have decided the competition and how the company will be able to do in that particular segment. We decide that yes, we decide that fine, we will enter this particular segment, or and it could be a combination segments, it could be one segment where we have concentrated marketing, or you could have undifferentiated marketing at the same product in different segments. So you are offering the same product at different segments. Toothpaste is a very classic example. If you go toothpaste, they have, in terms of benefits, in terms of they have segmented the market. So there are toothpaste. Colgate is manufacturing toothpaste for people having cavities. So that's a particular market. Sensodyne is just a single brand, single product. They are only targeted towards people having sensitive teeth and gum. Whereas Colgate, you can find whitening, healthy, better gums, better breath, so on and so forth, so many benefits. So let us look at the positioning process. What do we understand from positioning? As I've been saying all along, this was a concept. Initially, as we saw in our earlier slides, when we were talking of some of the advertising legends and the agency names, when we were discussing the agency names, we took the name of Ogilvy and I took the name of Rosser Reeves. Rosser Reeves was a gentleman who came up with this, who was from a scientific school of advertising, and he gave the concept of USP, that is the unique selling positioning. That what is the unique selling proposition that you have, and you use it to position it in the mind of the consumers. Later on, this concept of USP was popularized by a couple of gentlemen called as Al Rice and Jack Trout. So they came up with a book called as Positioning the Battle of the Minds. So obviously, how do you position yourself in the minds of the consumers? It has to do with some product benefit, it has to do with something, the key difference in the brand. So you have to talk of some difference, and that difference has to be meaningful to the consumer. I'll give you an example of positioning. As a small child, I was terrified of dogs, not because I found dogs to be ugly or although I'm an animal lover. So I would be terrified of dogs for the simple reason I had heard too much about dogs biting children, and then those children, it was not about the dogs biting children, it was about the dogs bite, and ultimately it could lead to a disease called as rabies. So what was the issue? The issue was that you would, in order to avoid rabies, what you would do if you were bitten by a dog, you would have to take 14 injections. And the injections, just imagine, I'm talking of the 80s, the injections, or in the early 90s, the injections were not, I mean, I jokingly always say that they were not human sized, they were more like veterinary injections, ones which were given to buffaloes and cows, huge injections, and they were given beneath your skin in the stomach, and those injections were 14 in number. 14 in number. So it was getting bitten by or getting mauled by a dog was not the issue. The issue was getting those rabies shot, and they were not. It was not a single shot. 14 dreadful veterinary injections, veterinary type injections. Let me put it this way. So that was what everyone used to dread. But if you look at it recently, I mean, as I said, I'm a cat lover. I've got a lot of cats. Cats also have the rabies virus. You can I mean, you can get infected if your cat has got rabies. Monkeys or many other animals, you could get the rabies from. So most of, since I have got a lot of cats, I handle them, I love them. Sometimes they end up, like for example, if they are not well, they are sick, and we have to administer an injection. So obviously, when you administer an injection, it pains, so they may ultimately bite you, even though they may not do it normally. So what I normally do is, if a cat has bitten me, I will go to the doctor and I'll get the rabies shot. But luckily, what has happened is, in the last so many years, there has been an advancement. So injections have become human injections, and you have to take 3 shots or sometimes 5 shots. spread over 1.5 months or a couple of months. That's it. And they are very, very, I mean, the shots are, you take it in your arm and they are just like any other normal injection, like a tetanus injection or something. You don't even feel it. So now, I mean, in the last 10 years, I've been bitten multiple times by my cats and probably one or two stray dog. And I've been vaccinated at least 3 times because there is a duration for that, that it lasts for at least, if you take 5 shots, it lasts for at least 5 years. So, what is the positioning of the new drug? The new drug is, earlier the drug was very, very dreadful. Today, the positioning is this new drug which came out, it came out with a key benefit. The key benefit was that you don't have to fear animals, you don't have to fear a dog, you don't have to fear anything because the injections are now human injections and it's like a breeze, even though it's a live vaccine. So, that's a benefit. So, that's how it is positioned. For example, Panadol. We all know about Panadol. It's a paracetamol. So, paracetamol is the generic name. Panadol is a brand name. Similarly, we have Aldol and Emidol, all these different dolls that we hit with ending or names ending with DOL, they are basically paracetamols. So, once I saw an ad, the ad was, it was written paracetamol rapid, works twice as fast. What does it mean? The ad is trying to create a position in my mind that all other paracetamol brands, if they take 2 hours or if they take 1 hour for an effective, let's say, intervention in terms of reducing your fever and pain or whatever it might be, this rapid, when you take it, it resolves your problem at least in half of the time. So, Panadol Rapid has a clear positioning that it works faster as compared to rest of the brand. So, if I have to take something, if I am abroad and if I have to take something, I want to take something like Crocin, or in India you have many names, Dolo and all that. So, if you have to take similar medicine, I'll always go for Panadol Rapid because it works twice as fast. So, that's the benefit. Colgate, whiter teeth. What does it mean? That if you want whiter teeth, so that's the positioning. Pepsodent, better breath. Close up, better breath. So, if you want good breath, you should take close up. That's how they have positioned themselves. Rolls Royce, the super premium, the super luxury car, the best available in the world, Rolls Royce. The biggest airline, biggest aircraft in the world. What do you have? Those big Airbus 380s. Biggest aircrafts in the world. I am talking of passenger planes. Although military planes are even bigger, there are some military planes which are very, very big. So, bigger planes, what do they mean for me? Not necessarily bigger seats, more leg room, bigger aircraft could be much more crammed, but I am just saying that's the position. Tata, what is the positioning? Reliable, quality, trust, that is what you have there. Adani, Reliance, Adani Enterprises, Reliance Industries, big business houses of India, but they don't convey you the same thing which a Tata does. Tata is a very credible brand, very reliable brand, a brand that you would like to do business with. Reliance, it's good. You may want to buy shares of Reliance because it creates wealth. Adani creates wealth for you. But probably you would not want Adani and you would not want Reliance, right? If you were to, let's say if somebody was to offer you a job and they're both equally paying, probably would not want to work in a Reliance or Adani because you think that Tata is a very, very credible company. It has been there for the last 100 years, whereas these are young companies. If the salary is the same, you would prefer to go with a trusted and reliable brand. That's brand positioning. Best hospitals in India, government hospital AIIMS, that's the brand positioning. There's so many government hospitals, hundreds and thousands. But when it comes to the top-notch hospitals, it is always the AIIMS. Best private hospitals, Max, Escorts, Fortis, many other. Okay, they come to your mind. Why? Because this is the positioning. If I say Let's take the case of countries. If I say, let's talk of Switzerland, or you'll say heaven on earth. If I say Kashmir, you'll also say heaven on earth. But you will have a different positioning. In Kashmir, you'll say, oh, there was militancy, not as clean, not as well kept. By the way, I mean, Kashmir, I can clearly say that if Kashmir were to have even half of the facilities that the Swiss destinations have, there is nobody who can compete with Kashmir. If you have that kind of development, if you have that kind of road and the facilities, I mean, Himalayas are active mountains. Nobody can compete with them, not Switzerland. Kashmir can become the most premium destination in the world. But what has happened now? If you go to Kashmir, you don't find international tourists. You find only local tourists. So if you have a lot of money, you don't like the crowd. You say, no, no, no. If I have money, I want to go to Switzerland. I want to go to somewhere else. I'll go to Santorini. I will go to Greece. I will go to Koh Samui. I'll go to Krabi Island. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to Seychelles. I'll take I'll go to Macedonia. I'll go to Serbia. I may go somewhere else. I may go to Bosnia Herzegovina. I may go to Greece. I may go to Crete. So if you have a lot of money, you don't want to go to Kashmir. Why? Because you see the same crowd. And it is because of that crowd you don't want to go. So this is the position, whether we like it or not. That's how it is. That is the positioning. So if you want to travel and if you have the money, you will say, I want to go by Emirates. You will say, I want to go by Etihad. I want to go by Qatar Airways. You would not want to go by Indigo, because you will say that, no, I don't want to go by Indigo. Indigo is always on time, so are these airlines. But these airlines, obviously the standard of service, quality, dining, everything is different. So you would not prefer to go on that particular airline. So positioning is all about the battle of the minds of the consumers, how the mind space has been occupied. And what you would ideally want is that you would want to occupy a position which has not been occupied by your rival. So let's take the case of, we go back to our salt example. So salt was salt. Then we had Tata come in. They came up with iodized salt, health benefit. This position was not taken by anybody in the mind of the consumers. So Tata took that particular position. Now Tata is sitting on that particular position. So what do the other companies do? They thought, let's take some other position. So somebody took up the position like Catch, both of them, Catch and Captain Cook. They took up the position of free flowing salt. Then once again Dandi came in. Dandi said, we have a name Dandi. It is from Gujarat. It reminds us of Gandhiji's Satyagraha. Gujarat is a state which produces most of the salt in India. So, oh, that's good for us, that works for us. Now, let us come with something unique. They came up with a concept called as triple refined. Now, triple refined didn't click with the consumer. The consumer said, what is triple refined? What does it do for me? I mean, I'm fine. All these things, as far as iodized is clear, the benefits are very, very clear. I know what it does for me. As far as free flowing is concerned, oh, if I live in places which have high humidity, that is fine. I would love to buy Captain Cook salt or Catch salt. Like for example, in Uttar Pradesh, we have a lot of, I mean, the July and August, they're very, very humid. Some part of September also sometimes. So the salt is not free flowing. So you would want to buy free flowing. So that works for you. You know what it does for you. The benefits are very, very obvious. But triple refined, what does it do for me? That's why the brand didn't click, even though it was a position which was unoccupied. But the brand didn't click. So then Tata came in. They said, oh, low sodium salt. Now, low sodium salt clicked because in India, if you look at the population is huge, 1.4, 1.5 billion and counting. So the last survey was done a long, long time ago. The survey is going on now. The census, I should say, not a survey. The census is going on now. We'll get the real picture. But probably it could be close to 1.5 billion. Right? So out of 1.5 billion, there is a huge number who are diabetic, and there is a huge number who have hypertension. So hypertensive guy starts reducing his salt intake, so that there is no, I mean, you reduce the chance of stroke and heart attack. So the benefit was really obvious when Tata low sodium salt came to the market. All those people, all such people who were hypertensive, they started buying that because it was a boon for them. And then there was this fashion statement conscious segment in India that pink salt, Himalayan pink salt, has more benefits as health benefits as compared to the rest of the salt. They're all refined and all that. The sea salt is not so good, this and that. So they started buying Himalayan rock salt. Now, Himalayan rock salt is more premium as compared to rest of the brands. Why? Because of that health benefit associated with this. Indian plum, jamun. As a child, and still, I remember jamun was a very, I mean, it was sold in the market during the summers. Right now, it is summers, it is being sold. But you know the price of jamun? Jamun is 400 rupees a kg. And during the peak season, it becomes somewhere around, it falls to 160, 200 rupees a kg. Why? Suddenly, people in India have realized the health benefit of eating all those fruits which are blue and purple. So, blueberries, jamun, falsas, jamun as we all know, Indian plum as we call it. So, plums and you know, the aloo bukharas, obviously they are plums, different types. I mean, aloo bukharas also come in different shades. So, them there are dark red, some purple and some nearly black. So, all these products have suddenly become very expensive. Falsa used to be very cheap. But today falsa is very expensive. Why? Because of certain health benefits that people have started thinking, and that particular segment is quite big in itself. So anybody who wants to buy jamun just because he wants to eat jamun or he just wants to eat falsa, he is not able to get this because, I mean, obviously you do not have jamun. I think to some extent there is commercial farming of jamun, but there is very little farming of falsa. So this is very important for us to understand that you need to occupy the right space in the mind of the consumer. That is what positioning is all about. Positioning is about occupying the right space in the minds of the consumer, positioning yourself with a key benefit or an attribute which the consumer values enough to buy. So everybody can be different, every product can be differentiated. I read a book, it said that even sand can be branded. Who is Amitabh Bachchan? Who is Shah Rukh Khan? Who is Salman Khan? Who is Akshay Khanna? Who is Akshay Kumar? They are all brands now. Who is Aishwarya Rai? She's a brand. Who is Sushmita Sen? She's a brand. Who is Tom Cruise? He's a brand. And they are making huge amount of money sponsoring products. Why? Because they have created themselves as brands. Not all film celebrities have been able to create themselves as brand. Virat Kohli is a brand. So he endorses a brand called as Ron. Similarly, Salman Khan being human. So they have created themselves as brand. They have created a key difference which the audience craves or the consumer crave. But that key benefit has to be positioned, has to be projected in the minds of the consumer. And who does that? Brand communication. And the most important tool of brand communication or marketing communication, advertising. So advertising plays a very important role in the overall marketing mix. Look at JetBlue. Now JetBlue is a very popular airline and it has positioned itself as a low price airline with great service. So what position have they occupied in the mind of the consumers? Low price with good service. And that is what everybody looks for, price conscious buyer, value for money, cheap and best. So this is what it is, cheap and best. So all those who do not want to, or all those who are not flying long distance, then their choice could be JetBlue, it could be Ryanair, it could be Air India Express, it could be Indigo. Like I said, I would not want to fly long distance with Indigo. I would want to fly in India with Indigo. I have no problems with that because maximum distances are 3.5 hours. So if I were to go to America, I would prefer, probably, I would like to fly with Emirates or probably even with Air India. With Air India also, because Air India obviously is the national carrier. I would want to fly with that. So to understand advertising, we must first understand marketing strategy. Let me just briefly summarize this. To understand advertising, we must first understand marketing strategy. Every marketing strategy seeks answers to these three fundamental questions. First, who are our customers? We need to identify and segment market based on demographic, geographic, psychographic, or behavioral factors. These are the basis of segmentation. Second, what do we offer? So, customers do not buy products, they buy solutions, benefits, and experiences. Are we willing to offer them these things? Third, how are we different from our That is the main thing that I've been talking about. How do we make ourselves different? Starbucks made itself different from others. Why? They said we are selling an experience. How did instant coffee create a difference? They said instantly, within minutes, Maggie, 2 minutes. So they created a difference which was meaningful to the consumer. So the key thing is brands can be different in terms of their names, in terms of their looks, in terms of their physical, packaging and everything. But ultimately, what is important is that difference should be very, very meaningful to the consumers. Apple, when they first launched their desktop, IBM was again a very, very popular brand then, but IBM was very, very industrial, very, very corporate, black or gray. IBM came out with very beautiful looking desktops, very aesthetically and aesthetic, they had a lot of aesthetic appeal, very good looking, very beautiful, let me put it this way, white, ivory colored, right, nice rounded design, very different from the traditional, IBM computers, desktop computers which were available at that point of time, and they hit it off with the audience, not only because of the technology, but simply because of, technology is one dimension, they were different, but this is more important. So we will continue with the discussion in the coming sessions. In the next session, we will continue with this. Thank you for today.